Welcome to FOB TV, the future of business. I'm your host, Kevin Benedict. I'm a futurist and lecturer here at TCS. And I want to thank everyone out there for joining this episode today. Now, today's episode is part of a series called The Future of Happiness. And some of it is focused on Nordic countries, Finland in particular. Some of it is more general from a bigger global perspective. So today I want to introduce our guest. Our guest today is Dr. Sirkka Heinonen. She's a Professor Emerita at the Finland Futures Research Centre at the University of Turku here in Finland. Thank you for joining us again, Professor.
Thank you for having me here.
So where are you today and where are you calling in from?
I'm now in Helsinki. Helsinki is the capital of Finland, southern part of Finland, and I'm director of our Helsinki office here.
And I had the privilege of meeting both you and touring your office on my visit to Finland a few weeks back. And so I'm just thrilled to be able to follow up and have this ongoing discussion with you. Now, tell us about the Finland Futures Research Centre. What kind of work do you guys do? What's your primary focus?
This is a very unique research center because our topic is futures. So we are an academic department inside university, and futures research is a discipline already in our university. This is unique because it's not the situation is the same in many countries. We have an international master's program and also doctoral program, and that's in future studies. So our center both is occupied with education. So I teach in future studies courses and give lectures. Then the second task is to conduct research on futures of cities, future of work, future of media, future of anything. And the third task that we have is to have societal influence. We want to, to the great public, we can give speeches what future studies is, where you can study it, and how you can learn to increase your own futures consciousness and awareness. So these three tasks are at the core in our center's activities.
That's brilliant. And there aren't a lot of global doctorate programs out there around the world. So if you're listening today to this episode and you do have an interest in doctoral programs or even master's programs in future studies, I would really invite you to take a look at the University of Turku and look at their program there, because that's brilliant. So now tell me, for all of us who are futurists, we seem to have our own very unique journeys into the role of a futurist. Tell us about your journey as a futurist.
Thank you for asking that, because it's really kind of strange path that I entered the field of future studies. When I graduated from Helsinki University as a Master of Philosophy, I came to work for VTT, Technology Research Centre of Finland. And at that time, the field of future studies was becoming to be launched into our country. And immediately I was taken into a project where we had to benchmark how other countries like USA, France, Japan, UK, who were pioneering countries, how they organized future studies. But in Finland, we wanted to have our own flavor in future studies, how to organize it. So one of my first tasks was to study these pioneering countries and then suggest some organizing for Finland. So I have had this unique opportunity to follow time series, how the field came to Finland. But my personal background was in the history I studied ancient history and culture in ancient Rome and Greeks, and actually I did my doctoral thesis on Stoic philosophy. But the topic was common both for history and future, because it was how humans have related to nature, and on the other hand, how humans have related to technology. And it's more topical subject today than as ever. So that's how I started my career. And then in 2007, I became professor in university. So that was another position, but as interesting as the first one with studying technology foresight.
That's brilliant. In our futurist team here at TCS, all of our presentations start with a review of patterns in history that can inform what we're seeing as signals and trends today. So that's brilliant that you started with the degree or with a study of history. I just love that. That's so fun and relevant. So you talked about one of your first projects is looking at a variety of different countries who have kind of pioneered work in futurist studies and looked at where they were ranked and things like that. And I think that's a good lead into what I want to talk about in our very first question here, which is Finland for 8 straight years has been ranked globally as the #1 happiest country in the world. Now, that is amazing. Now, there's a top 5, which is a lot of your Nordic countries that are around you are in the top 5, but you in Finland, 8 straight years is #1. What does that say about the country? And what is that recipe for happiness that Finland seems to have developed?
Yes, according to my view, I think this is really a combination of many things, but it also has to do with this kind of futures orientation, obviously. But I would say that freedom, equality, and trust are 3 key elements, 3 key factors here, because in Finland we value freedom and independence very much. We are very individualistic. We are the freest country in the world together with Sweden and Norway. And we feel like, because being one of the Nordic countries, Finland is like sharing this same values and same culture as other Nordic countries. But specifically for Finland, there are some characteristics. This equality factor I mentioned also is based on the fact that we are a country of very low hierarchies. Sweden has been a kingdom and there are several classes, but actually we are in Finland on an equal basis in society. This is not a class society. We are very democratic and everybody is therefore at the same level. This makes it easier to share information and understand each other. So Finland was also the first country to grant women the full political rights in 1906. So we emphasize a lot of not only equality, but gender equality as well. And I mentioned the third pillar, trust. It may be even the most important pillar, because Finland is a trust society. We trust people, we trust institutions, and the rate of corruption is very low here in our country. This makes life much easier and smooth. But I must add here that I feel it's very funny that we Finns, we feel very embarrassed about this ranking. Of course, we are proud, but we feel embarrassed. And there's a joke that there must be a mistake in statistics.
So let me just ask this question. In reviewing Finland, the history of Finland, Now, there hasn't always been trust because there's been civil wars, there's been invasions, there's been various political parties that are, that lean to the left or to the right. How has Finland been able to, instead of being polarized like we're experiencing in the US right now, how did you develop this level of trust that's now one of your pillars?
Well, I think that's a core element. And you are quite right. There have been conflicts and problems and wars, but it's the core that exists still. It has been existing and it still exists. And trust is not something that automatically is generated. There are reasons behind it, like these equality things I mentioned.
Yeah.
But also, it's not something that we can take for granted. We have to protect it.
So let's define what happiness is to a Finn, Professor. Because we might say happiness is bouncing around and dancing in a circle with laughter. But what does happiness look like to a Finn?
Well, it may be many different things, I would say, definitely. And perhaps it's very much culture related, because I mentioned this freedom of speech, freedom of press, but also this kind of freedom of choices, individual choices, and having a sense of influence so that we feel that we can influence, maybe make other people happy as well. So that's part of this happiness. But we need breathing space. If we have breathing space, we feel happy. That's my interpretation. But happiness for a Finn looks very simple. It is not about gathering material wealth, big cars and status, etc. Of course, that exists as well. But happiness lies in immaterial things, in spending time at home or elsewhere with your family, friends, your closest, with your pets, and enjoying nature and doing something you feel passionate about. But this is very unique. Even silence can produce happiness. I think that's a bit different from other countries or cultures. We don't need noisy music and dancing. Of course, we love that as well. But silence can be an element for happiness for us Finns.
To me, that's fascinating because whenever you kind of read the top 5 things that define a Finn, it does talk a lot about silence and respect for space and distance and all of that thing, which is so interesting. What part of your culture do you think that originated? I mean, where did that come from?
It must be very, very old, ancient element. For example, when Finns are sitting together, either at dinner or sipping coffee, we are the most coffee-consuming country in the world, we can be totally silent, but we can feel this kind of unison. We don't need words in order to feel connected to each other. So it must be something very old feature. It's not something that can be learned either, because for other cultures, silence may seem even rude. If we are not giving any small talk, then we are considered rude. But silence and being silent is kind of, it's a value, it's an asset, and it has hidden things inside. So it's a very mysterious thing if you look at it deeper.
That's fascinating. When I look at our environment, economy, culture, and our systems here in the U.S., some of our biggest high anxiety and high stress situations in our society are associated with the high cost of just living, the high cost of healthcare, the high cost of children, of taking care of our parents and grandparents in elder care, the high cost of education, the very devastating impact of unemployment when it comes to a person. All of these things are always very near and to us and very high anxiety areas. And so that impacts what we look at the way we look at everything, Professor. How has, Finland managed that different?
I understand your situation. I sympathize with it because I think this is a crucial situation. In our country, taxation is very high, very, very high. But oddly enough, there is not much protesting against the taxes. This is because we understand that the taxes are needed to provide social security for us. Basic healthcare and education is almost free here in our country. We can feel secure that in difficult times in our lives, whatever the problems are, we are taken care of. We get many social benefits, and of course, they are costly otherwise, but with taxation, they can be covered. We give and we are given.
Wow. So how does that, knowing that there are social services to cover those big areas, how does that change the Finns' outlook on life?
It helps us to relax because we can rely on those social benefits and social security net. We know that it exists and it helps us. So that leaves us a lot of space to move and be happy.
Oh, that's tremendous. So another thing that Finland is very famous for is their love of saunas, or saunas, as we would say in the US. So let me give the number here. So Finland has a population of 5.6 million, out of which there are 3 million saunas or saunas. That is a lot of saunas out there. Now, what role does saunas play in Finn happiness?
Well, in my opinion, it plays a very, very big role, personally and nationally, because sauna is one of those strongest traditions that we have that has relaxing and happiness elements in it. And absolutely, sauna is a must for a Finn. Even if you don't own a sauna, you can go to a sauna. But I think it is an integral part of our soul even. So sauna is not just a physical place where you go to sweat and wash your body. It is a place to invigorate you totally, both inside and outside, both physically and mentally. And we also have in Finland 500,000 summer cottages, and almost all of them have a sauna too by the sea, by the lake or by the sea, because water element is very important in connection to sauna. But even in city apartments, we have electric saunas. Sauna is I think, holistic cleaning ritual. It's not just a tradition, it's a ritual. It cleans you from all your anxiety and stress. When you enter a sauna, you leave out all the stress. And it has been scientifically proven that it has also beneficial impacts on your physical health. It, for example, lowers your blood pressure. But sauna is much, much more, I think, because it emphasizes equality. We come back to this topic of equality. Mm-hmm. When we are naked, sitting on the sauna bench, all are at the same level. And sauna is something very private, very intimate. On the other hand, paradoxically, it can be a place for decision making. In Finland, in politics, in business life, many important decisions have been concluded in sauna, not in the traditional meeting places. So this is very important aspect as well to sauna. I don't think it's the most important aspect, but it is something that not everybody knows. But sauna is a cultural and social innovation. In Finland, it is almost a sacred institution. We couldn't live without saunas.
Wow. So let me just ask, if you look at your family and friends, how often do you guys go use a sauna?
I go very rarely, only once a week.
Mm-hmm.
I know people, I have friends who go each day.
Each day?
By once a week is like
That's
traditional,
so fascinating.
at least that.
I love it. So Finland is also known for having just an excellent education system. And it's not just that things are done professionally and right, but there's a different philosophy in Finland toward education, I understand. Talk to us about that.
Yes, definitely education is Finland's strength because Finland is a knowledge society. We pay a lot of attention to knowledge creation, and therefore we have invested in education. Education is a key to knowledge and civilization, and we have built our own system of education to include all on an equal basis again. So that's a unique characteristic. And we are the most literate country in the world and the second biggest library users in Europe. Libraries are like, in connection to schools, part of our education system. For example, yesterday I went to a city library with my grandchildren. So libraries are really important element in education. And our culture, traditionally, it used to be very homogeneous. And as a result, it was very easy to teach in schools because everybody had the same background. But in my view, the secret for high-ranking education system here in Finland is the high quality of our teachers. So I think that's really important that the teachers themselves are well educated. Most of them have a university degree. And besides that, we keep teachers' profession in very high esteem in society. So that's another characteristic that we appreciate teachers' work so much. But besides those aspects, I have another to add. The Finnish education system, I claim, has been successful also because we let our children play a lot. So playing is also important for personal development of children and also knowledge creation. Children do not have to start school early in Finland. They start quite late at the age of 6 or 7 as compared to many other countries. So therefore they have a lot of time to play before going to school. And when at school, the aim is to teach them to become critical thinkers and independent learners. And we do not burden them much with homework. So when they are at school, the learning is supposed to happen mostly there. So those are quite different characteristics as compared to some other education systems.
And that sounds very attractive to me.
That's my interpretation.
The kids are lucky in that environment. Lots of play and not a lot of homework. That sounds like a good mixture for me. But if the result is critical thinking and all of that, that's brilliant. Now, I love spending time in nature. I mean, matter of fact, this office is in Idaho. Idaho is full of forests and mountains and lakes at a high altitude rather than down at the sea level. but I still, nature is really important to me. That's one of the reasons we moved here initially many years ago. Now, I've read a lot that nature and spending time in nature and having those family cabins next to a lake or the sea on an island, all of that is just built into the culture of Finns. Tell us about that.
Well, that's true. We Finns, we truly love nature passionately. And in Finland, we have more than 180,000 lakes and the same number of islands. Mm-hmm. So we are the water richest country in the world. And besides lakes and islands, we also have a lot of forests. Our land land area is covered by 80% with forests. So you can imagine that a lot of greenery, a lot of blue water, nature is all around us, even in cities. And about these summer cottages, we spend our time as much as we can during holidays, but not only that. Recently, we have increased the time that we spend in our summer cottages teleworking. So we can combine work and spending time in the countryside. So that's very important. And also our concept of forest, for example, may be different from other countries. In some countries or cultures, forest can be even fearful places. They can be dangerous, dark places. But in Finland, we see forests, even if they are dark, they are safe havens and very safe places to be. So this is also something that I would say loving nature is close to becoming a religion. There are many people who go to the forest to give prayers instead of going to traditional churches. Mm-hmm. And also in urban planning, we have greenery in cities. We want to have parks and green areas and vertical farming. And there is one specific feature in Finnish urban planning. We have, of course, harsh winter. We have a lot of snow. We have ski urbanism. That means that when you leave your home, open the door, even in city, there is ready-made routes for cross-country skiing. You can immediately go very near wherever you live, very near. For example, I live in eastern parts of Helsinki. When I go out, I can use my skis if I like.
That is so brilliant. Now, we've talked about a lot of these very positive aspects of Finland and Finland culture and the blessings of the geographic area with lakes and forest and all of that. But this fact that there's that Finland is top of this ranking for 8 straight years, that tells me this wasn't an accident of nature. This wasn't just an accident that all of this came about. So let's talk about it. When we look back 50, 60, 70 years into the past, what were the decisions that Finns had to really make that set up this culture and this society and this country to have this kind of blessed environment?
You are quite right. It has been a long process, and actually the culture behind all of this goes much further than 50 years because since Finland was part of Sweden for over 700 years, just about every aspect of society we have simulated from Swedish elements such as legislation, food, education, culture, etc. But there is one difference, the language. We have Finnish and Swedish as official languages today, but 95% of the population in Finland is Finnish-speaking, and the minority of Swedish-speaking population is only 5%. So there must be something about the difficult language of the Finnish language. We have been brave enough to learn it and use it and be proud. We have, for example, the hand in Finnish language is käsi. And we conjugate the noun in 16 different cases. Käsi, käden, kädettä, kädestä, kädestä, kädelle, käde, etc. So it's very difficult for foreigners to learn. But the language has somehow prepped up, I think. That's one thing. But also the main thing behind all this and our programs for progress is not only futures orientation, but this quality called sisu in the Finnish language. Sisu means perseverance. We never give up. If we fall, we rise up again and again. So during the centuries, Finns have been squeezed between two big empires, Sweden and Russia. We struggled to gain our independence in 1917, and we have always had strong futures orientation. We wish to survive, and not only to survive, we wish to succeed. So this we are hungry for futures. So this urge for futures orientation is innate, but it has become something more now, as you were asking about the programs. It became institutionalized because Finland can be called a futures country, I claim, because we launched future studies, as I mentioned, in late 1970s into Finland, but we quite soon established academic futures, like our center in 1992. And in 1993, we launched the program for government foresight reports. Every 4 years, Prime Minister's office prepares a government foresight report. So for public administration and policy making, that's kind of a document that gives the robustness for planning and policy making. And not only that, in Parliament, we also have a permanent committee for the future. So we have a lot of these kind of institutionalized units for futures orientation, and we have used these kind of futures orientation institutions to make our country one of the stablest countries in the world. So we have constructed both the social security system, as I mentioned, and the physical infrastructure, and happiness needs both these soft and hard breeding grounds.
Oh, man, thank you for sharing that with us. That is brilliant. A country that's being shaped and guided by purposeful foresight. That is amazing. That is incredible. And to me, it seems like that would take some level of the politics out of it, because you're looking at the future, where you want to be, and you're doing things very purposeful. Wow, that's fascinating. One of the questions that comes up in my mind, Professor, when I look at what Finland has done here is there's so much stability, equality, there's these powerful and strong social services, and Finland ranks very high on the competitiveness. So it's not like having these benefits and these blessings of geography and things. It's not just that, it's that there is this drive that Finland seems to have, even though they have so many safety nets out there. So I see in 2024, Finland was ranked 15th out of 67 in the IMD World Competitiveness Ranking. In 2017, World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Report, Finland was 10th globally in competitiveness. In 2022, Finland was ranked number 1 among EU member states in digital competitiveness, which covered 4 dimensions: connectivity, human capital, integration of digital technology, digital public services. So all of these things show a really driven society and economy that wants to accomplish things. Now, how can you have both strong social services and be highly competitive? That doesn't sound like they would go together, but it appears they are in Finland.
Yeah, it's not automatic and it's not easy. You have to have this kind of purposeful action towards having them both. But you make me embarrassed again because of these rankings, but it's true. We are very competitive because by nature we are competitive. We want to survive, succeed, and flourish. But this is because we are very hardworking as well. We are not lazy. This doesn't happen unless you are ready to work very hard. We set goals for ourselves and then we work for them. So this characteristic of working very hard may also explain partly this happiness rating because we love to work. Work is not something just toil and difficult struggle. People usually love their work, but often they work even too much. And this, of course, creates problems of stress and burnout in working life. So work-life balance could be better in Finland. This is what we study exactly now in our current research project on futures of work, which is called T-winning spaces. But our competitiveness is also based on our constant interest in technology and innovations. So we are very technology optimists. We like to design, develop, apply technology, all kind of devices. We are ready to experiment all of them. And in Finland, we have invented many technological innovations like in mobile phone technologies, GSM and text messages, then Linux, open operating system, weather radar technology, and even now we have an innovation to make food, make protein out of thin air by using electrolysis and very difficult chemical processes using renewable energy. So any kind of technological innovations, they excite us. Then we test them, we apply them, and then we try to promote them into various fields in society. But actually, we also use digitalization and ICT very efficiently to boost competitiveness and well-being, both. But all this requires that we have as a backup this strong and solid social security net already in place. So it has to be there already in place. Whatever happens to you, you will be taken care of in society from cradle to death. But I would say that actually the main reason for high competitiveness is this element of trust in combination with equality, as I mentioned, and also this kind of culturally very direct way of expressing ourselves clearly. We are not very good at small talk. We are no-nonsense guys. But when we say something, we mean it, really. And then this kind of information and knowledge creation can happen very easily. And I think this makes every organization pretty effective. So every individual in each organization has an important role and a right to speak to whom he or she decides, no matter which is his or her formal position in this organization. So this kind of whole system of trusting, equality, direct expression, and will to success gives elements for competitiveness.
That's so interesting. Now, you have brought up numerous times today in our discussions the notion of equality. Now, in the U.S., just given our culture and our economy and our history, we are very ambitious and driven and very competitive. We are free to compete. But in this, and freedom is very important to Americans too, but this freedom to compete means we're free to succeed and free to fail as well. And what has happened is we have this increasing gap between the very, very rich and the poor, and it's growing. We can't seem to close that gap. Talk to us about this equality and what Finns have done to purposely support equality.
Well, in Finland, the situation is not so bad because we currently are the fifth lowest. We have the fifth lowest income differences in OECD countries. The situation now is not so bad, but however, there is even in Finland a growing disparity between Finland's high-income and low-income households. So today the wealthy is 10% of households, accounts for more than half of the total net wealth. So this is the first time this has happened in Finland in record-keeping history. So this is not yet a problem in Finland, but it may become so that we are concerned, politicians and policymakers are concerned with this phenomenon, but we are not in very serious situation yet. But because we are futures oriented, we have to proactively try to somehow handle so that the situation doesn't get worse.
So talk to us about the taxation system there that also supports a more equal environment. How has Finland set that up? Walk us through that.
Yes, we have a progressive taxation. So the more you earn money, the more you pay taxes, and it is considered socially just system, but the taxation has increased so much in the upper levels of income that there is now, on the other hand, some consideration whether we should lower the highest taxes in order to not to hinder business activities. So it's kind of balancing out. There are different voices that want to lower certain taxes, different voices want to lower other taxes. So it is not an easy decision to decide on the whole package. But we wish to move towards taxing more like environmental impact behavior or something like that. And we wanted to introduce some taxes on use of sugar and some things that are not considered good for your health, but it didn't go through. So it's not easy to change the taxation system, but basically it tries to be just so that if you don't earn much, you don't pay high taxes.
Yeah. Interesting. Every country has to keep fine-tuning their tax environment. What do people want from their government? What do they expect from their government? What they can afford from their government? I think that's a challenge everywhere. So let's talk about challenges. We've talked all about, some really some huge benefits, some huge blessings that Finland has, but it's not all roses, as we say. There's a lot of challenges you face. And as a futurist, you can see those challenges and project those out into the future. And you see those challenges are not going to be helpful for Finns. So talk to us about some of the big challenges that Finland sees coming ahead of them.
You are quite right. There are a lot of challenges. There are even a lot of crises ahead, risks, threats. And actually in future studies, I have developed in my projects the concept of crisis resilience. We should proactively monitor what kind of crises and risks and threats there are ahead of us and prepare for them. Trying to prevent them, or if that's not possible, then trying to prepare for them so that we can cope and become even flourishing, even though they happen. And surprises are the new normal.
Yep.
We have to be prepared for crises and surprises that can come from any direction. But as you ask about Finland's challenges now and in the future, my answer is that the biggest challenge is our national security. And the biggest security challenge here is Russia. During the past 1,000 years, Russia has invaded Finland more than 40 times and is now again in the war path. So geographically, this becomes understandable, our concern, because we share a common border of 1,300 kilometers with Russia. So this keeps us alert and awake all the time because we want to have a future. We have, therefore, one of the largest armies in Europe. But primarily, of course, we want to solve all conflicts by diplomacy. And diplomacy and negotiation skills are our trademark. One of our previous presidents of the Republic, Martti Ahtisaari, won a Nobel Prize for peacemaking achievements in Africa and elsewhere in the world a couple of years ago. So that's kind of diplomacy is our goal, but we are prepared for everything. And internally, one of the biggest challenges in Finnish society is how to improve the situation of the youth. We are very concerned about the health and well-being and future perspectives for the youth because unemployment among the youth is quite high at the moment. And this causes, of course, many problems, mental problems especially. So I would say that the main challenge is to keep up and nourish hope, the sense of hope for the future among the youth, but also for all citizens.
Talk to us about the demographic challenges that Finland has. Most of Europe is looking ahead at their demographics, and they're finding out that they're not having enough children even to keep a replacement rate going forward. So in many places, they're looking, how do we cover social services costs when we have fewer and fewer people in the labor market that are contributing to social services? Talk to us about Finland's situation.
The Finland situation is similar to Japan or South Korea or Italy. Birth rate is quite low and the population is aging very rapidly. So here we have only two options how to provide services and how to keep up this welfare society situation good, even though the population is aging. Either we accept more immigrants, because immigrant families, they tend to have a lot of children. So that's one way, one direct way. The other way is to use more, I mentioned technology and innovation. So we have high ambitions how to include technology, AI to healthcare, but not so that this kind of personal touch is replaced by machines, but somehow compensating at least heavy lifting jobs, etc., yes, with robots and AI, etc. These are the only two trajectories that we have at the moment, but the situation is something that we have to seriously think about. But immigrants' integration to our society is one of the solutions.
So I can see it. So immigration brings its own blessings and challenges anywhere that is. And I think we're very familiar with the challenges there. Automation is interesting. We're looking for ways to improve our quality of life through the use of technology, even though there might be fewer caregivers. Maybe you redistribute or reassign the roles of those caregivers so they can be applying that human touch. But a lot of the other work in the background that doesn't require the human skills but can be automated, perhaps there's better ways of taking advantage there. That's brilliant. So, final question here before I let you go, Professor, is how will the qualities that help Finland achieve this consistently high ranking of happiness, how will those qualities help Finland in the future?
Well, this is important to realize that these qualities, they are not automatically preserved when society is progressing into some direction in the long run, unless they are nourished and protected. And this can only happen multilaterally on various levels: at home in families, at school in education, and in society at large. So this kind of social mood of solidarity, trust, and progress can be promoted through responsible policymakers, positive opinion leaders in media, that's also, and influencers, that's also important, futures-oriented systematic activities, and futures-aware citizens throughout society.
Wow. So when I hear you say that, it just warms my heart, Professor, because this is showing a unified, socially cohesive environment where everybody is looking ahead. They're creating foresight. They're creating ambitions and goals that are shared. And then the society as a whole is shaping the direction of their future to address and accomplish those ambitions. That's what it sounds like to me. And that takes a lot of work. I mean, we struggle with that in the US here because of our political polarization, is that there's not agreement on a lot of those things. And it's a real struggle for us. So it's interesting to hear how other societies focus in on that and how they work to address that. So, Professor, I want to thank you so much for sharing your expertise, experience, and wisdom with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.